Welcome into Steelers Talk Yinzers. My name is Jack Sperry. Today I am answering your questions on the Steelers Talk Live mailbag filmed during our Steelers Talk Live show on Wednesday. Can't wait to see what kind of questions you guys got for me today. But if you're watching this and it's not Wednesday, that means that it's not during the live show, but that's okay. If you want to get a question on next week's Steelers Talk Live show, you can do something that's called Super Thanks, which is a brand new feature, a relatively new feature here on YouTube that lets you donate outside of live shows. So what you do is you click the thanks icon, which is that heart with the money sign in there, and you send in any amount with your question, and we will get your question on next week's live mailbag. Really do appreciate everybody that sends in super thanks. Here are the last 4 people to give out a super thanks. Actually, the first 3 are super thanks from this week. Charlie Green, Tom Smith, Wilbert Matthews. Shout out to you guys. You guys are real ones. And then CMBT Sports actually shared yesterday's video on Twitter. So I wanted to give a special shout out to CMBT Sports here on the show. And without further ado here, let's get into today's questions, starting with the King of the North, Austin Tardif, who says secondary is going to rotate constantly like a rotisserie chicken, 3 safety look, but rotating in those linebackers. 2 top 5 defense this year, all year. I absolutely agree with this. I think the Steelers defense is absolutely going to be a top 5, if not a top 3, if not the best defense in the National Football League. I think when you have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith coming off the edge with Cam Hayward there to crush pockets, then you get into the secondary. You got Patrick Peterson, who had a ridiculous amount of interceptions last year, and then also Joey Porter Jr., and then I'm not even mentioning Minkah Fitzpatrick, the all-pro back there in center field, with Mike Tomlin calling the shots, Terrell Austin calling the defensive plays. I think this is going to be a fantastic defense next year, one of the best in the National Football League. Can't wait to see these guys ball in 2023. Then we got a question from Not Webb's World here with a $5 super chat who says, how short is Kenny Pickett's leash for performance? Because if he doesn't ball next year, I'm guessing he's saying, do we go into 2024 draft with QB on the list or wait one more year? So I think it depends on the circumstance, right? It depends how Kenny plays. It depends where the Steelers are drafting. Now, I really doubt that the Steelers will be drafting, say, like in the top 8 to really be in position to go and get a quarterback, one of those top ones anyway, Drake May or Caleb Williams. And we'll see, if Quinn Ewers or somebody else moves up the draft board in the coming months. But I think that with Kenny Pickett already going to be 25 years old next year, okay, that's extremely old for someone that's a young quarterback. If you're an older QB, your leash is definitely shorter because teams just don't have the time to really develop you. It's like you're already 25. You should be able to be playing at a pro level already. So I think this year's going to be a big one for Kenny Pickett. I think because last year was his rookie season, you give him a little bit of slack with some of the rookie mistakes that he had. But going into year 2, it's time to pony up, man. The AFC North is loaded coming up into 2023. If the Steelers are going to win, they need a great performance out of Kenny Pickett in his sophomore season. Then you got Young Noticeable 25, who says a $2 super chat here, who says, what is your prediction on our first opponent? I would love to see a divisional matchup here, either with the Baltimore Ravens or even better, the Cleveland Browns. We could have a real nice little battle there with the Browns report in the watch party streams there on week 1. That would be awesome. I would also love to be on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football there in week 1. But, last year you have Cincinnati in week 1, so it's probably not them. But I just hope it's a good matchup. And most of all, I hope for a W for the black and gold. Then we got a question from Dan Alexander here who says we should sign Kyle Van Noy. He could help the depth. 100% agree. You got Nate Herbig in the draft, who's going to be a really good curveball to throw in your nickel sets and obvious passing situations because he's a bit smaller, right? He's not really built to go up against the run. And I think that Kyle Van Noy, if something were to happen to TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, he's a bit thicker, he's a bit meatier, somebody that can come in and really start and play on those early downs and really defend the run. I think he can also play inside linebacker for you. He's played inside linebacker before in his career. He's really thrived at both positions. He's a very versatile player. He's a chess piece that Mike Tomlin can deploy. I would absolutely be on board with signing Kyle Van Noy, especially if it's for a cheaper contract. So let me know right now in the comments section, what is the biggest potential need for the Steelers right now? Is it inside linebacker? Is it maybe backup quarterback if you hate Mitchell Trubisky? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get an ad break here, just do me a favor. Go find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section and answer today's question. Then we got a $20 super chat here from Not Webb's World, who says, if JJ comes back, do they bring back Derek? Also, your thoughts on the Hakeem Butler pickup. He was a beast at Iowa State and wasn't properly used when he was first drafted. So I'll start with the Butler. I think that Hakeem is somebody that's really big. He's got pretty good hands. Like he might be a pretty decent red zone threat for the Steelers if he ends up making the team. He's not the best route runner. He's not the fastest guy in the world. But, man, he is a little bit talented. I'm intrigued to see how he does. I think that's one of the more intriguing names that are going to be in Steelers camp this year. Can't wait to see how things go out there. Chugs, help me out with JJ. Why am I blanking on JJ? If JJ comes back. Oh, JJ Watt. If JJ Watt comes back, do they bring back Derek also? I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I think that Derek would have to take like a vet minimum type of deal. I think the Steelers are gearing up to deploy Connor Hayward at fullback this year. I think a lot of brothers on the team. Sorry for the mix-up, guys. but Connor, really good receiver as a potential fullback. He's a little bit smaller for a tight end. I think he's a perfect fullback prospect kind of player. So I'm not sure if the Steelers really want to bring back Derek, but, man, I would love to see T.J. Watt line up next to his brother, J.J. there in the black and gold. That would be one of the biggest sports stories of the year in the world, let alone in Pittsburgh. I would absolutely love that, Not Webb's World. Then we got a question from Matt Hyde, one of the real ones here at Steelers Talk, who says, out of the draft, which rookie will have the biggest impact on the team? I answered this question I think last week's live show, and I think my answer was Joey Porter Jr. because I think he's going to play pretty darn well right away. I think that if he was maybe in a more of a zone-heavy scheme, then he would have a little bit more time. He would need to have a little bit more time to develop. But I think because he's going to be playing so much press man, especially on early downs here in Pittsburgh, that's really the bread and butter of his game. He's got such long arms. He plays really, really well in terms of his hand placement with his punches, all this different stuff. He's going to be such a dominant press man corner in the National Football League, in my opinion, and he can impact the team on defense right away, especially with Patrick Peterson taking the other team's best receiver most likely. I think that JPJ is going to have a great season. I love Broderick Jones. I love the upside with him, but he's definitely going to have to develop a little bit more, especially in pass protection. I think there's going to be a little bit of growing pains with Broderick this season, and I just think that JPJ is just going to be fantastic, and he's born to be a Steeler. Then we got Kenan Farrell here, who says, I think we should sign Justin Houston, and move Nick Herbig to linebacker. So I would love Justin Houston on this team. I think that he would, along with Kyle Van Noy, he would be a great fit as that rotational edge rusher. And, as far as moving Nick Herbig to linebacker, I think that's what the plan is for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that they want to play him more as like that rotational edge this year and then use this year to kind of develop his game at the inside linebacker position in practice and then even deploy him a little bit in games. I think that he's somebody that has the coverage ability to play linebacker. He was actually really good in zone coverage there with the Badgers in college, and I think he's going to be a natural at inside linebacker. So I'm really excited to see what the future of Nick Herbig entails. I think he'll have a really productive first year in the league as a rotational edge rusher, and then I think by year two he'll be transitioning to that full-time role at inside linebacker. Then we got a question from PSP23. Who says, what happens to Dan Moore now that Jones will be the starting left tackle? So first of all, Jones does need to earn the starting job in camp. Nothing's going to be giving, especially with Mike Tomlin as the head coach. But we can definitely assume that Broderick Jones is probably going to get the job coming out of camp. Now, when it comes to Dan Moore Jr., he's still on a really nice team-friendly deal as somebody that's going to be a really good swing tackle for you. If something happens to Broderick Jones or Chukwuma Okorafor, you are going to want to have Dan Moore Jr. on the roster. I think he's a very valuable piece still as that swing tackle, and I cannot wait to see what he can do here as the kind of like the swing tackle coming up here for the Steelers in 2023. So let me know what you guys would do with Dan Moore Jr. Would you cut him? Would you trade him? Or would you to keep him? For me, I think I would keep him. I think he's a very valuable piece as a swing tackle. You might be able to get like a day 3 pick for him if you trade him, and then you might save a little bit of cap space if you end up cutting him. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Next question comes from IQ Takes Elo, who says, you think we will sign Peters maybe? I think he's talking about Marcus Peters here, and I don't think so. I think that they like the corners in their cornerback room right now. Ahkello Witherspoon is kind of a question mark. Will he be good? Will he not be good? Will he get his speed back? Will he not? And then you got Levi Wallace, who's very solid too, and those two guys are going to be behind really, really good players in Patrick Peterson and Joey Porter Jr., who I think is really going to show out in camp and earn a starting position. So although, Marcus Peters, somebody that fits what the Steelers want to do in terms of press man, all this different kind of stuff, he does get burned a lot. That's his thing. He's an extremely aggressive corner. He's not as fast as he once was. And since the biggest problem for the Steelers secondary last year was giving up those big plays, especially in games against like the Bills and the Eagles, like you want somebody that can really stick with these really good receivers. Marcus Peters is somebody that's aggressive. He can make some plays for you, but he's also going to give up some bigger plays for you, chunk plays down the field. That's not what I want if I am the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we got Mimic Treasure 235 here, who goes, what do you think about Mark Robinson and Tay Crowder? So Tay is somebody that has experience in the league, but he's definitely a backup. He's just not very good, in my opinion, especially when it comes to NFL level talent. He's not graded well. He doesn't look great on film. He's a good kind of depth piece to have in, on your roster. And Mark Robinson is somebody that I think is a breakout candidate for the Steelers heading into 2023. A little bit undersized, but man, he is a cannonball coming out of the middle of the defense. He plays so physically, and he just got the mentality that you look for in a blue collar type of football team like the Pittsburgh Steelers are. And I really hope that in year 2 he can really develop in zone coverage and man coverage and his pass protection, because I think he's got the potential to be a really, really good linebacker in this league. Then we got a first-time super chatter here from Brian Love, a $10 super chat here. Appreciate you, Brian. He says, long-time sub. Before there were even 500 subs, I was here. We got a real one right here in Brian, man. This guy's been here for the long haul. I like picking up Van Noy. He's a Swiss Army knife. I also think we need kickers, punters. J.K. Scott from the Bolts is available. What do you think? So I'm actually, we're going to be getting into cut candidates here later on in the live show here, Brian, where I actually have Presley Harvin III. I'm going to give you a little spoiler here. Presley Harvin III is actually on that list because the Steelers have brought in a couple of pretty darn nice punters. Brendan Mann, one of the best punters in the league, some say, is coming in as well to compete with him. And then they got one of the best punters in college football. I think it's Adam Korsak is his name. He's out of Rutgers, and he was at the Senior Bowl. He won the award for the best punter in college football last year. I think one of those guys is going to win the job, and Harvin's going to go by the wayside. When it comes to kickers, Chris Boswell's contract is a little bit tougher to get out of. So unless B.T. Potter, rookie out of Clemson, just straight up destroys him in camp and he's the clear best kicker, I think Boz is going to be back in 2023. And then when it comes to Van Noy, you're right, he is a Swiss Army knife. He can play outside linebacker, inside linebacker. Having a guy like that on your bench would be super, super valuable, given we know how the NFL is, guys. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be people out of the lineup. Having a guy that can play both outside and inside linebacker would be absolutely valuable for the Steelers. The only question is, how much does he want in terms of compensation? Then we got Corey Hess here, who says, what do you think is more important to address, inside linebacker or a rotational edge? I feel like we're thinner on talent at inside linebacker, especially if Nick Herbig goes outside. So I think that at the end of the day, this is what I'll say. I think that they're good to go on either if they want to go that route. I don't think they need to add a piece at either of those positions. I think I like Cole Holcomb and Landon Roberts. I like what the Steelers have. If I'd have to choose, however, I would pick rotational edge, someone like a Justin Houston or a Kyle Van Noy to come in and, if something happens to TJ and Alex, you could start Herbig and that player. Right now, the only person you really trust on the field, in my opinion, outside of Watt and Highsmith at the edge position is Nick Herbig, and he's not going to be able to hold up against the run. So I really think getting a bigger outside linebacker to kind of be a backup in that room would be a really nice piece. I think the Steelers are pretty good at inside linebacker right now. Then we got a question from Owen Moran, who says, do you think we get another slot corner in free agency, maybe a more physical one? It's possible. I don't think that will happen. I think the Steelers are probably going to go into camp with the guys they have now. I think they like the guys they have on the outside. I think they're going to be playing Patrick Peterson a lot at that nickel star position that you see a lot of these different guys play. You see it a lot, like Brian Branch at Alabama last year. That's the position he played, that nickel star role. Jalen Ramsey plays the nickel star role in LA's defense. I think that Mike Tomlin sees Patrick Peterson as someone that can play that role extremely, extremely well. And I think that's probably where he's going to be playing when the Steelers are in those nickel formations, when you have three cornerbacks on the field. When it's two cornerbacks, however, I think it's going to be Patrick Peterson and Joey Porter Jr. And then if you take a look at what they have behind those guys, Witherspoon, Wallace, Sullivan, and Trice, and James Pierre, by the way, very, very solid depth there at the cornerback position. I don't think they need to add another piece. I think that they are solid. Next question comes from Dominic Schrader, a real friend of the show here. Really appreciate your support, Dominic. Says, let everyone sleep on this team. They'll show out and develop and be right back to the same usual Super Bowl contenders. I sure hope you're right, Dominic. I think if Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett figure out their stuff and get it right this season, the Steelers are going to be one of the best teams in the National Football League. If Matt Canada or Kenny Pickett are just not firing on all cylinders this year, I think the offense is going to fall a little bit down. They'll beat teams that are kind of bad. You know, their defense will pound up on bad offenses and stuff like that. But when it comes to beating the good teams, I think the Steelers will have trouble beating them, because those good teams, you have to be able to outscore those teams. And if the Steelers offense is where it was even at the end of last season, I don't think it's going to be good enough. You need to be better than what they were last season if you want to beat these good teams, especially the playoff caliber teams in the National Football League. You're going to be playing a lot of real good teams in the AFC North this year. The Steelers better be ready. Then we got a $10 super chat here from Not Webb's World, who says, honestly, there's been a crap time of talk about Malik Willis not making the 53-man roster, and the Steelers should pick him up. Love the kid, but I put down the Willis Kool-Aid. What do you think? I'm pretty much in the same boat. I think that he could get cut by the Titans, but man, someone with his physical upside, if he's getting cut, that tells me that this guy just cannot grasp an NFL playbook. I mean, we saw it last year. He could not read defenses to save his life. He looked like a deer in headlights the entire season. Now, I was somebody that said you have to give Malik Willis more than 1 year to develop. I said that he would not be ready in year one, and lo and behold, he was not ready to play in year one. So I don't know why people are surprised that he wasn't ready to play. But, you know, the Titans know him the best. If they really thought that Malik Willis was going to be able to come in this season and be a changed man and really grasp the playbook and grasp how to read coverages, they wouldn't have taken Will Levis. They wouldn't have traded up to go get Will Levis, okay? I don't think Malik Willis can handle the NFL game from an intellectual standpoint, and that's okay. A lot of guys can. It's a really, really tough position to play and one of the toughest sports to play in the entire world. I don't think he's the real deal, and I just think that maybe bring him in as like a fourth quarterback in camp, whatever, see what he's got, but I just don't see him panning out for the Steelers moving forward. That's going to be it for this week's mailbag, guys. I really appreciate everybody that stuck around to the end of today's video. I will see you guys later. Peace.